I finally played through Red Dead Redemption 2 for the first time a couple weeks ago in 2024, and the number one thing I kept asking myself is what the hell took me so long to play this game? It's one of the coolest, most amazing gaming experiences I've ever had, and it's a game that will be truly timeless. I think the biggest and most accurate compliment that I can give this game is the quality that it has from start to finish. And that starts with the gameplay and how fine-tuned every little mechanic of this game is. From shooting to taking cover to hunting to traveling around. This game, they fine-tune every little detail you can possibly think about. And I can't think of a game that is more polished than Red Dead Redemption 2. With that being said, let's talk about the bread and butter of this game, which obviously is the gunplay. And shooting your guns, which you have revolvers, repeaters, shotguns, snipers, you have dynamite, all sorts of weapons you can use in this game. It all feels really, really good. All the little sounds your gun makes from shooting, reloading, from the feedback you get from shooting enemies, it's all super, super clean. And it all feels really, really good. From your deadeye, from your quick draw, from just taking cover, the gunplay is fantastic. And something I wanted to go over is the natural settings in this game, which Rockstar has been doing, from what I understand from Grand Theft Auto 5, is when you push down your trigger to aim, which is L2 for me in my PS5, it will naturally go to an enemy. Like, it's not just auto aim, it just snaps to an enemy. I personally am not a fan of that. The game is definitely made with that intention in mind, but to me, it feels like it takes away from me playing the game. So I changed that setting so I had free aim, except when I was on a horse, because like I said, this game definitely has that in mind. And whichever way you prefer, just know that you can move that setting if you want. I prefer to aim myself, and it just feels like I'm doing more in the game, and I enjoyed it a little bit more. Within doing that, I definitely made some of the faster creatures and interactions in the game a little bit harder for myself, but it just made it a little bit more hands-on, and not really a knock on the game, just more of a preference for me. But just know that if you'd like to change that setting, you can, but definitely, like I said, this game is meant to be played with the snap-on aiming. There's just a lot going on your horseback, a lot of enemies at once, but regardless, however you want to play it, it is super fun. And there are so many different things you can do in this game, from the missions themselves throughout just the world. You can find strangers that give you missions, you can do bounty hunts. The story missions themselves, you'll be doing so many things. You'll be robbing banks, you'll be robbing trains, you'll be getting in firefights with rival gangs. And there are some things that I don't want to spoil here, but you will get so much variety from the story itself. Sometimes you'll sneak around, sometimes you just ride on horseback. Or you can just chill, explore the cities, do little side quests, meet cool characters, do some weird stuff. Or if you feel like taking a break from being an outlaw, you can go to your local saloon, go play some cards, go get a drink, get a beer, get a whiskey, meet some interesting characters, and get absolutely sloshed if you want. Up to you. So we talked about all those different things you can do, and I still haven't talked about my favorite thing you can do in this game, which is definitely the hunting. The hunting is so much fun, and there are so many different types of creatures and areas you can find. There's swamp areas, there's deserts, there's snowy areas, you can go by lakes, by rivers. Along with the regular animals you can find while exploring, walking around the world, there's also legendary hunts, which were my favorite hunts to do for sure. Fun as the hunting is though, it's not all just for sport. It's actually quite useful because you can get pelts from these animals and you can use that for different equipment, better items, And it depends on how you kill these animals. Like different animals need to be killed in different ways to get a perfect pelt, as the pelt quality will affect what you can get and what you can make. So really, like I said, it's really its own game. And I would say it's my favorite part of this game if it wasn't for one other aspect of Red Dead Redemption 2. Playing this game 5 years after it came out, obviously, I've heard a lot about Red Dead. I know how legendary this game is, how good it's considered in the gaming community. But while streaming this game, I noticed that this game means a lot to a lot of people. And I didn't understand that at first. And then I started getting through the story. And when I finally got through this game, I understand why this game means so much to so many people. Also, I'll keep spoilers to a minimum. I'll only talk about the beginning of the game and the setup of the story, because I would hate to spoil this game for anybody, in case you're a loser like me who hasn't played it in the last 6 years. As to why the story is so great, I actually think it's quite simple, and it has to do with one guy, our main guy, Arthur Morgan, the toughest softy you've ever seen, and one of the best characters I've ever seen in any piece of media ever. Our story with Arthur begins in the late 1800s, where civilization is becoming a little bit more structured, civilized. So this gang's way of living is seeing its last breath, and we get to see how this gang, at least some of the pieces of the gang, struggle to adjust to this new time period or come to the realization that this way of life is no longer feasible. Along with Arthur, though, there are many great characters in this story, and one of the main ones, one of the best ones, is also Dutch Vanderlyn, the leader of our gang, and somewhat of a father figure for Arthur. He's kind of the big brains of the operation, and one of those characters that is struggling to adjust to how the world is changing around them. Two other standouts for me were Lenny. I loved hanging out with him and doing missions with Lenny, and also Sadie Adler, someone that you meet early on in the game, and someone that truly becomes a badass and was my favorite person to do missions with in the game. Sadie's just awesome. To go back to Arthur and why he's such a great character, it mainly has to do with his growth and development throughout the story. You get little tidbits of his past and the man he was, but the important thing is not who he was, but the man that he wants to be, and him figuring out who that is. It's quite the journey, and there's one scene that I specifically wanted to highlight, which was my favorite moment of this game, that really hit me hard. And if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. At the train, talking to a certain character, and that moment is one of the most heart-wrenching, hard-hitting moments that I've ever experienced, and that definitely left an impression on me that I'll always remember. Last but not least, I wanted to go over the graphics and sound of this game. The production values from this game are the highest I've ever seen in any video game I've ever played. And that is no exaggeration. At this point, I played this in 2024, and it stands up with the most beautiful games I play on my PS5 to this day. And really, aside from just the quality of graphics, the art direction, and there are moments that just feel scripted. You'll be running around in your horse and you'll see the sun setting in front of you, the fields, the mountains, and truly it's something to behold and stands up with the best looking games I've ever seen. And the music and sound are some of the best I've ever heard in any video game as well. Everything is so detailed, like from the sound of your guns, from the sounds of different animals that you'll see, from the sounds of your horse when they're running around different types of surfaces, from dirt to cement. It truly adds to the immersion. And after some missions and moments in this game, you'll have to go back on horseback to your camp, and there'll be a song playing while you're riding back, and it's a moment of reflection. It's somber, it's memorable, and some of my favorite highlights of the game. Now, is Red Dead Redemption 2 perfect? Well, no. And let me preface this by saying that I've never played a game that is perfect. So every game has little sections that are just not at the quality of everything else, or that just didn't fit with the game. There's three things for me with Red Dead Redemption 2, and number one is it does start a bit slow. It takes a while before you actually get to play the main game and get out there in the open world. Number two is chapter 5 of this game is pretty weak relative to the other chapters in this game, and it definitely felt underdeveloped and rushed, almost unnecessary at times. But again, it's just the weakest of the 5 chapters, not necessarily bad. And number 3 is just a general complaint with Rockstar and the rage system that they use, is that the physics can get kind of wonky, especially when there's stuff around you like walls and people transitioning from running to walking or vice versa. It can get a little wonky, but once you get used to it, it's not so bad. And again, I know it's just a nitpick, and honestly, it would lead to more entertaining moments than not. Those horse falls are definitely the best. So, what's my final verdict on Red Dead Redemption 2? Well, unless you haven't been paying attention, you'd obviously know that I think this game is fantastic. And you'd be right. I think Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of the greatest pieces of media ever created. It is an absolute masterpiece. And if you haven't experienced it yet, please do yourself the favor of experiencing Red Dead Redemption 2. And for the sake of consistency, if we want to give it a rating, we'll give it a rating. And obviously, it's a 10 out of 10. And I just want to say thank you. This is the video that I spent the most time and effort in really trying to step up my game in the channel. And if you like the video, please leave a like and subscribe. You can catch the whole live stream on the Red Dead Redemption 2 playlist here, which I'll leave a link to below. And just want to say, I appreciate you guys. Hope you enjoyed the video and have a great day.